to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen, and with us for our program today, Assemblyman Al Graf. Al Graf represents the 5th Assembly District in New York, an assembly district that includes parts of Suffolk County. We want to thank you folks on Long Island for joining us for our program today. And Al Graf, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a busy time here at the state capitol.
Yeah, it's been busy and a lot of battles.
A lot of battles. The biggest battle of all, of course, the budget battle, and that is just recently concluded, and probably what we got to spend some time talking about today.
Yeah, the budget was a nightmare. I mean, they just gave Cuomo whatever he wanted. And if you look at somebody, he swept out $90 million or out of NIPER again for electricity, and that was killing us. That's going to kill us as far as bringing the cost of electricity down. He screwed up the LIPO plan. Now, he also took out $60 million he gave to the Buffalo Bills, and he gets a skybox out of the deal, which he controls. You know, here's a guy that's beating his chest about ethics reform, right? Meanwhile, he's got quid pro quo coming over there. And the education portion of the budget was horrendous. I mean, the things that they're doing, they double down on the Common Core testing and the curriculum. And they're not letting teachers teach. And our kids are suffering for it. I mean, they went through 3 days of testing the other day. And if you look at some of these, the curriculum they have, it's not age appropriate, it's not developmentally appropriate. And, you know, there are all kinds of problems. And the parents have been out there for the last 3 years screaming about what they're doing to public education. And it really showed this year because of the huge opt-out movement that was out there. My schools, it was like 66% for all of my schools on average that opted out of the test.
Wow.
I found out my one school, 70% of them opted out of the math test, okay? And this is happening all throughout the state. And basically it's the parents saying, listen, pay attention to us. Stop doing this to our children. So they're starting to pay attention because there's a big movement. I know parents are out there, teachers are out there, and they're protesting the people that voted for the budget. It was kind of funny because I actually, the day after the budget, after I had debated it with some of my colleagues, I came into my office and a teacher had a plate of cookies there for me. And I happened to call one of the senator's office, and they told me they were getting a lot of really, you know, angry phone calls, right? And they asked, how about me? I said, no, they appreciate what we've been doing in the Assembly Republican Conference. We've been fighting against this. And I told them about the cookies, and I said, by the way, if the senator gets cookies from teachers or parents, don't eat it, okay? May not be a good idea. So,
let me take you back to the floor of the Assembly. I want to talk more about the opting out and all that's going on with the Common Core. We've always said on this program that if the people of this state want to get what they want from their state government, they just need to pay attention and then react to it and let you fellas here at the state capitol know what's on their mind so things can get done the right way. Let's go and show them what you said on the floor of the Assembly that night as the budget was passing. You talked about the Common Core and a number of other issues. Then we'll come back and we'll talk more today with Assemblyman Al Graf.
We're going down the wrong path right now. We're hurting our children, we're hurting our schools. I mean, the governor's proposal here isn't making things better, it's making things worse. And unfortunately, in the end, the teachers are going to be forced to teach to a test. The governor's going to get his way again as far as putting in his education policies. And I just think this is a very sad day in the state of New York. You know, my heart goes out to the chairwoman because she has to actually defend this nonsense, you know. But we're going down the wrong road. I would ask my colleagues to look, let the governor's budget be late. Stand up to him. Vote no on this portion of the budget. Tell us, Governor, look, we're not going to let you hurt these children. We're not going to let you disrupt our schools. We're not going to let you destroy our educational system. This is the time to stand up and push back. This is the time to vote no on this budget proposal. You know, year after year, we tell parents and we tell teachers, don't worry, we have your back. Don't worry, we're going to make it better. This is it, folks. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to tell the governor you've gone one step too far. We're taking back our schools. We're going to protect our children, and these tests have got to go away. I would encourage all of my colleagues to send a strong message to the governor and vote no on this legislation.
But the legislation did pass, the budget passed, that particular portion of it, the education bill did pass, and things really aren't going to change immediately, are
Well, they're starting to backtrack now because they're getting a lot of feedback. People are upset. People are mad. People are, you know, they've had enough. They're not happy with the direction of education. And they're letting us, not us, but they're letting the legislature know it. We've been fighting this battle for 3 years. We've been chipping away at it for 3 years. And look, I get videos. Parents send me videos. I had a video the other day of a little boy sitting there rocking back and forth in his living room and crying, saying, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I'm stupid, I'm stupid. That's not what we're trying to do with our children. All right? I had another one where we went out and we did our forums, and it's never far from my mind. I had a teacher that taught special ed, and she testified, and she was afraid of a job, losing a job for coming up and coming forth, but she said she couldn't do it anymore. And she talked about her kids taking a test, and she talked about one little boy who was sitting there in a corner, and she broke down in tears. We had to hold it for a couple minutes so she can regain herself, and somebody came to the audience and put their arm around her. And she talked about a little boy. She noticed he wasn't doing anything, and she went over to investigate what was going on. And what she found was a little boy was stabbing himself in the arm with a pencil through just sheer frustration. And she broke down crying, took the pencil away, and said that's the first time she felt like a teacher again. The plan that they're on, and I don't understand it. We've been fighting this for 3 years. Parents have been vocal. They've done everything they should be doing. They're protesting in front of the majority's offices. They're protesting here in Albany. They're sending letters, they're sending emails, they're going on Facebook. They've created numerous organizations to try to send a message to Albany.
The message seems to have gotten through, though, with the, I don't want to call it civil disobedience, but the opting out that's taken place these past couple of weeks, the stories of hundreds of thousands of students opting out from taking the test. That's what's getting everybody's attention.
Well, you know what? You get hit in the head with a hammer so many times, sooner or later you're going to pay attention. And
there's no penalty, right, for students that opt out?
There's no penalty. And the governor came out, and it's, you know, he said the test doesn't count against the students for 5 years. That's nonsense. In his budget, it's 2 years, allegedly. Okay? He said 5 years on the campaign trail. He did nothing to do 5 years. Okay? So this guy talks out of both sides of his mouth. But the bottom line is we're hurting these kids. We're hurting our schools, okay? We're never going to recover this. These are important years in child development. And you have children that love school, and now they don't want to go, okay? They're bogged down with homework. I mean, they give a kid a test and say, pick the best answer, right? And it happens that the right answer is there, and if they pick that, it's wrong. So it makes no sense. I mean, we're destroying public education, and the governor's not helping here, not at all. And they're just digging in, and the Senate's digging in. And the majority told the teachers, right? They were out there with rallies and everything else saying they're going to support public education, that what's going on is wrong. And then they doubled down. They doubled down again in this budget. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on that we're not letting up because, you know, we can't afford to, because we can't sit back and let them help the children. I mean, the majorities would like us to go away, but my caucus, the Republican caucus in the Assembly, has been carrying this fight.
Well, we'll continue to follow that story here on this program, too, as we meet with you in coming weeks of this legislative session. We're already getting to our last few minutes here. I want to get to some other issues with you. As a former police officer, I know the safety of police officers in this state, both in the city of New York and out on the island and upstate, has been frontmost on your mind, especially with some of the incidences that have been taking place around this country the last few months?
Well, I'm a retired New York City police officer. My daughter's actually on the police department right now, and she's actually wearing my shield out there. So, it's very important to me. Safety is very important to me. We're looking at putting together a package for law enforcement, and we're going to be looking at panels that will go on the doors, the 2 front doors, so if they roll up on a shootout, they're trained to get behind the doors so that the doors actually protect them. We're looking at some of the resisting arrest statutes. We're looking at other safety equipment, say bulletproof vests. Bulletproof vests are important. When I was on the police department, our vest, even if I got shot, it would leave a hole. It would stop the bullet from going, but I'd have a nice hole sitting there in my chest. And they've made advancements in vests. So we're going to be looking at vests. Another component that we're looking at is the DARE program. And a lot of places got rid of the DARE program. They've done a modified DARE program. But look at it. Since DARE went away, we've had a spike in heroin use. Okay, is there a correlation? I don't know. But I'd rather err on the side of caution and look at what we can do as far as going into the schools and talking to kids, because this has become an epidemic throughout New York State. I mean, in my district, in the last couple weeks, you've had 4 bank robberies, and they all come down to heroin addicts. They've sit there with the utility poles. What they've done is you have a copper ground that goes on the side of the utility pole. Mm-hmm. They've been walking around cutting the copper wires throughout the whole community, right, to sell for scrap. And if a lightning strike hits that pole, the electricity in your house is going to get fried. I have parents that come into me, they don't know what to do anymore. I put on a Narcan, which is a drug to counteract heroin, seminar, where they actually got a nasal Narcan kit after going through training. And I was limited on how many people I could bring into the library, seats-wise. And I wound up with 90 parents signing up prior to the event. And out of the 90, 84, 85 showed up. And my community's begging me to do another one.
Wow. We
have another one coming up. It's pretty sad. We're a parent. They're doing everything they can to protect their child, right? And I've heard the stories, I've heard the anguish, and the parents are just, they're at wit's end.
It's interesting what you say about the DARE program, because there had been such advancements made against the drug problem, and it seemed to be all sliding away. Kind of like the same thing with what's going on in Times Square with the animated characters. We're just getting away from so many of the policies that have worked over the past
Well, they're
few years.
stepping over $1 to pick up a dime. An ounce of prevention. We have to get realistic with this. Joe Giglio and I are putting together a package that we're going to be going out in the communities, and we want to talk to parents. And there's a lot of components to it. I mean, we're both law enforcement, but we're not saying lock everybody up. We're saying let's look at the rehab centers. Okay, what kind of oversight do we have there? Let's look at public service announcements. Let's look at training or education when it comes to this. And we're going to go out there. We want to listen to everybody, just like we did with the education. And I want to hear from professionals in the field. I want to hear from parents who are going through this with their children. I want to hear from parents that lost their children, okay, due to this. I want to hear about people that are suffering from this.
Let me let the folks watching know how they can let you know how they feel about the issues that we've just been talking about. You can contact your representative, Assemblyman Al Graf, at his office. The easiest thing to do, send an email. You see right there at the bottom of the screen, grafa@assembly.state.ny.us, or you can call the office at 585-0230. And as we thank Assemblyman Al Graf for joining us for our program today, we thank you folks too, and hope to see you soon for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.